What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Matthew Moreno. Matt, the Dodgers have a new second baseman we learned yesterday when Dave Roberts went on MLB Network. And by new second baseman, I kind of mean old second baseman. Surprising news from Roberts that Mookie Betts expected to be the everyday second baseman in 2024. Give me your thoughts, reaction, level of surprise.
There is some element of surprise to me. I thought, if anything, it would be similar to what we saw this past season, where Mookie just spent a significant amount of time at second base, but still playing plenty of right field. So I'm surprised from that standpoint, just because I wasn't sure that the Dodgers would necessarily commit to this plan. But that being said, it also does make sense, and I know we'll get into all that, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. It makes sense from everything that Dave Roberts kind of said throughout this past year of when Mookie started playing second base. One, he looked like a natural at it. Two, Dave Roberts was of the opinion, and he told the beat reporters again yesterday when he was they got their chance to ask him after he sort of, revealed this big news on MLB Network with Alana. He reiterated that, he thinks that Mookie Betts is kind of, more engaged, more focused, more locked in, has more fun playing second base.
Yeah. It's interesting because we think of Mookie Betts as one of the best right fielders in all of Major League Baseball. Obviously, he's been up for Gold Gloves continuously. The stats defensively haven't necessarily lent themselves that way necessarily. Last year, you look at some of, and I've always said, look, defensive numbers need to be taken with the largest grain of salt because they're tough to decipher. But when you look at outs above average, Mookie Betts has been positive basically every season of his entire career until last year. -1 outs above average as a right fielder, -2 as a shortstop, -1 as a second baseman. If you want to look at their overall fielding run value, he was in the 27th percentile. That's surprising. I don't necessarily believe that, but what I think it tells you is it points you in the right direction. I don't think Mookie Betts is one of the, in the 27th percentile as far as defenders in Major League Baseball. Obviously, part of this was he was playing second base and shortstop at various times for the first time. But I think it does indicate that this is a guy that, I'm not going to say he's over the hill, but he's 31 years old. He's probably lost a step. You look at sprint speed and that type of thing. And so that all kind of checks out. Like, I guess it's not surprising to me that as a 31-year-old, he's a step or two slower than he was as a 25, 26-year-old, that he's not at his peak defensive powers. I guess it just, my thing initially a year ago when this started to be a conversation, said, hey, you have one of the best right fielders in baseball. Why are we moving him to second base? Does it make more sense to you now? Like, do you look at him as a right fielder differently, dramatically differently than maybe even a year ago, to the point that, hey, I'm willing to move him out of right field into second base and not feel like we're sort of missing out on one of Mookie Betts' superpowers?
Well, first, I think we need to go back a little bit further, and let's remember your video idea that we did of, the Dodgers needed a shortstop after Gavin Lux's injury in spring training. You said right off the bat, why not Mookie Betts?
Mookie.
My first thought was, it's a little crazy, but hey, I think it could work. And I think, if it comes to it, the Dodgers should do it. Unfortunately, Chris Taylor was struggling, Miguel Rojas was struggling, and it came to it. So I just wanted to bring that up again because that was a fun moment. Hey, we need to take the victory laps, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of right field, I did see some tweets yesterday after Dave Roberts made kind of this announcement, if you will, sort of referencing and alluding into the fact that Mookie is no longer, quote unquote, like elite in right field. And, I guess if you look at a lot of the defensive metrics, like, fine, I agree. At his age, compared to a few years ago,
Big eye test guy. Right, what does the eye test tell you?
That's what I'm getting at. I agree that Mookie has lost a step in terms of sprint speed, but I think that is you see that more when he's running the bases, in terms of he's not stealing second base as frequently as he once did. And that's where I feel like there's been the drop off in the sprint speed. Defensively, watching him,
I'm with you.
I still think he's very good in right field. And I am at pretty much every game. If it's not me, it's Blake sitting there. Like, I don't remember a ball being hit to the gap or down the line and me thinking, oh man, a year ago, 2 years ago, Mookie with a little bit faster sprint speed would have got it. Because A, he's either making those plays, or B, it just wasn't like nobody was going to get to it. And so I think that conversation's a little strange to me. I think he still is very, very good in right field. Is he at the peak as
Yeah.
you reference? No, but that's fine, right? I mean, he's
Yeah.
30. Like, I'm not expecting him to be running as fast as he did at 27, 26 years old.
Yeah.
All of that being said, I think this move makes sense, and I know we'll get into it from like a roster
Yep.
standpoint. And it's fine. I don't think it's an indictment on Mookie's defense in right field. I think it's more of just looking at the market, both free agency, both potential trades, and saying we have a very good player who can play second base, fill that hole, and there are more outfielders out there that we could go get as opposed to maybe a middle infielder.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Dodgers roster as it's currently constructed. Second base was the most obvious hole on the team. You know, you're penciling in, okay, Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, Gavin Lux, Max Muncy, Mookie Betts, James Outman, and then Jason Hayward and Chris Taylor in a platoon. And you're looking and saying, hey, there's a hole everywhere except for there's no holes except for second base. And the reality is, you know, we did a video a couple days ago where we're talking about offseason plans. And I was like, okay, well, can the Dodgers go make a trade for a second baseman? And I look at who are the guys that might be available. And look, it's not an awesomely encouraging group. I mean, Jonathan India is a name out there who was rookie of the year. If you look at his numbers the last 2 years, it's not that awesome. And so, as weird as it sounds, you look around and it is much easier, it feels like, to go find a guy who's an impact player in the outfield than it would be at second base. And so if you've got a guy like Mookie Betts who can shift into second base, who, to your point, I'm with you. I think he's still a very, very good defensive right fielder. He's going to be a very good defensive second baseman as well. He's one of the most incredible athletes defensively that baseball has right now. And so now it becomes the hole is now in the outfield. Now, Jason Hayward could play a little right field. Chris Taylor could potentially play some right field. I mean, but basically it gives you flexibility. I think when you said, hey, I don't think this is so much an indictment of Mookie Betts as it is a roster move. You know who it's an indictment of? It's an indictment of Michael Busch and Miguel Vargas. Because, you know, I had people on Twitter saying, well, Michael Busch and Miguel Vargas are going to play outfield. If the Dodgers wanted Michael Busch and Miguel Vargas to play, they'd be playing second base and Mookie Betts would be playing the outfield. What this tells me is, regardless of what the Dodgers want to say out loud, their view on Miguel Vargas and Michael Busch is that they can't be trusted right now. And that rather than giving those guys a chance at second base, which is a far more comfortable position for both of them than left field would be, they said, we're just going to make this move now and figure out right field later.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's more so Vargas than Bush because we did see, spring training this year. The plan to get Miguel Vargas in the lineup was to transition him to second base.
Yep.
And to his credit, I thought Vargas, all things
right.
considered, did okay. Like the issue wasn't that he wasn't holding his own defensively. He just couldn't. He stopped hitting, and that was always his calling card, and that was what carried him through the minors. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree. It is an indictment on Bush, I think, a little bit as well. And I mean, I know we've kind of, I don't want to say joked because we sort of believe it. Like Bush, I think, is kind of trade bait at this point. Like, and maybe Miguel Vargas settles into left field, but that is going to be a little bit of a surprise for me as well because that out there, he definitely looked the least comfortable compared to moving over to second base, and so. We'll have to see. Maybe, both of them end up getting packaged in separate deals or one deal. I mean, obviously, we covered it on Sunday night in our live show, and it's no secret the Dodgers have been linked to a bunch of, notable starting pitchers who could be traded for, and you're not going to get those guys without giving up some noteworthy prospects. And so maybe that's where at least one of Bush or Vargas fit in.
Yeah. The last piece of this just that I find comical is the fact that Dave Roberts is just on MLB Network, just like breaking this news. Like, I love, like, you're around Dave, and I'm obviously, I like Dave more than the average Dodgers fan, I think is a fair thing to say. I just laugh because this feels like an accident. This feels like he didn't go on there with the expectation of like, you know what? I'm going to break this news. Like, he just like, oh yeah, by the way, Mookie's our everyday thing. And it's like, wait, what? What did you just say, Dave? And all the beat guys are like, wait, what? Like 2 hours later, they're confirming it. It's like, we all watched him on MLB Network say it. Like, I don't know. There's something about that I just find comical, that he just drops this massive bomb that like explodes Dodgers Twitter for like 2 hours. And he just kind of casually does it on MLB Network.
Yeah, he has a history of doing that a little bit. Like, I remember one example that sticks out was when they were discussing Clayton Kershaw's shoulder injury, and he did finally go on the IL. And the messaging from Kershaw, from Dave, was that I should be back after the All-Star break. It's just going to be a short stint, blah blah blah. And then I think coming out of the All-Star break, before the Dodgers are opening up, if I remember correctly, with the road series against the Mets, before Dave had his media availability with the beat reporters who were traveling with the team, he was on, I'm pretty sure it was MLB Network radio, so not TV. And he told them, like, yeah, with Kershaw, it's going to be at least another 2 or 3 weeks. We've decided to, just kind of wait and see. So, and that wasn't the first time. Like, there are multiple instances where he's tend to do this. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of funny. He just so casually goes on there. His interview with Alana was, the show. It was Shohei stuff. It was, have you been in touch with Kershaw? Kind of all the regular things you sort of expect. And then, yeah, it's just, oh, by the way, we're moving our Gold Glove caliber right fielder down to second base on a permanent basis moving forward.
Crazy stuff. Well, the Dodgers now have the most expensive second baseman in all of Major League Baseball, I believe. I'd have to go fact check that, but there's not a second baseman off the top of my head that's making Mookie Betts type money. So there you have it. Again, the report today, Dave Roberts on MLB Network announcing that Mookie Betts will be the everyday second baseman. I assume we will still see him in right field occasionally, but it sounds like 75, 80, 85% of the time, Mookie Betts is going to be playing second base, which means the Dodgers have a move to make because there is nobody on the roster, unless you're the biggest Johnny DeLuca fan in the history of the world, that can be penciled into the opening day lineup as an outfielder alongside James Outman. Jason Hayward and Chris Taylor seem to form a platoon. So you've got a full spot open. So we'll see what the Dodgers decide to do with that. That is Matthew Moreno. My name is Jeff Spiegel. As always, we appreciate you joining us here on Dodger Heads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. If you're a podcast person, please find Dodger Heads on Apple, Spotify, and Google. And if not, please subscribe, ring the notification bell here on YouTube. Tons of content coming. And look, the Dodgers, probably some big news coming out of the winter meetings. It feels like something is due, so you won't want to miss it. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. As always, go Dodgers.